The bus stopped at Rūrki, and we alighted along with them. They guided us to a bicycle rickshaw, and I read that already. It was the end of a long summer's day. The sun was dipping behind the neighborhood homes, and dusk began its prolonged arrival. There were no yards or lawns, but there did seem to be a park or an open field with a bit of grass or at the end of the road. Before the rickshaw even stopped, the girl stood up and started yelling excitedly in Hindi to a man standing on the second floor balcony, looking down over the stuccoed parapet. The man was in a sleeveless undershirt and appeared to have just woken up from his afternoon nap. As the girls gesticulated, he bent over the parapet to get a closer look, and a huge smile formed across his face. He shouted something into the house, then quickly disappeared inside. The elder of the girls paid the driver, and we all grabbed our bags off the carriage floor and walked up the steps to their home. "Are you sure this is okay?" I asked one more time. I still couldn't imagine a world in which bringing two strangers home would be acceptable. The door opened, and a voluptuous middle-aged woman with a beautiful round face and wearing a yellow cotton sari stood in the doorway. The girls gave her a quick hug and began talking on top of each other. The woman smiled and said in English, "Welcome. We are glad you have come." "Wow. Please come inside," she said, motioning as the girls darted into the living room to put down their bags. By this time, the man had put on a long-sleeved white cotton top, which I've since learned is called a kurta. These traditional tops for both men and women hang down anywhere from mid-thigh to mid-calf, and he wore his with thin white cotton pants. "Sit, sit," he said, warmly motioning us to the largest couch, a brown fabric-covered sofa with a cream-colored cotton sheet draped over it. "Sit, sit," he urged again, until we finally did. Over the next few minutes, at least 15 people streamed through the front door into the living room, walked straight up to us. Clearly, we were the reason they'd come, and greeted us with a dozen variations of "Welcome. You like India?" Jim and I were dressed for bus travel. He was in jeans and a t-shirt. I was wearing thin blue cotton pants. That'd be fun to wear, but I mean pants, and a t-shirt. Neither of us had even showered that morning. The bus had been scheduled to leave at Delhi at 6 o'clock, and we'd read horror stories about finding the correct bus at the terminal, so we left extra time to navigate the chaos. We departed our hotel early, and I hadn't even had a cup of coffee. After spending 6 hours on a bus where I prayed not to throw up, and Jim was squashed between passengers and farm animals, we arrived at these lovely people's house. Suddenly, I felt underdressed for that occasion. I hadn't even seen a mirror since pre-dawn, and I was sure we must be filthy. No one seemed to mind, and they squeezed tighter and tighter together on the other couches and chairs as more people kept arriving. Some sat easily on the floor. Suddenly, from the kitchen, the yellow sari-clad woman appeared with a plate of squiggly light brown circles. She placed the plate in front of us. "You eat this, it's very nice. Fresh jalebi. You take sugar and tea?" "Sure," I mumbled, still not quite sure what was going on, where we were, and how this all had happened. How had these people just opened their homes to us with no questions? They had given us the nicest couch, had invited the whole neighborhood, and were serving us the crispiest, sweetest, drippiest meal I'd ever tasted. Jalebis consist of sugary batter dripped in boiling oil and deep-fried in overlapping circles, like figure eights. The first bite is crispy, and then the melted sugar pours onto your tongue. We ate plate after plate of jalebis and drank several cups of spicy, sugary chai. It was so much better than the stuff in styrofoam served at the guru programs Jim had taken me to back home. The neighbors asked the same questions the girls had on the bus. They wanted to know about our parents, what they did, how many other family members we had when we planned to have children, what our jobs were, what had made us come to India. I finally gave up trying to figure out the answer to that last question. It was just happening. Yes, we'd been welcomed into these random people's homes. Yes, their neighbors were spending the evening inquiring into our lives with friendliness and ease as though we'd known each other for years. Yes, dinner in this dream world consisted of fried sugar batter and spicy tea. After a few hours of sitting with a constantly changing group of people, neighbors and friends would casually come in and out. The girls showed us to our room. It was the master bedroom. "We can't take this room," Jim and I protested to the girls' parents. "It's your room." "Please," they said, "it is your room." Fatigue and carbohydrate stupor prevented us from fighting any further. We thanked them as profusely as we could for opening their home to us with so much love, and we collapsed on the bed to sleep. A hard knock on the door pulled me from deep slumber. The room was dark, and it took more than a moment for me to remember where we were. Oh yes, at the home of the nicest people in the world who had popped out of some children's storybook to stand at the door and welcome us. Now, they were knocking on our door in the middle of the night. Why? Maybe it has been a mistake. Maybe they thought that we were someone else, someone they knew who was much more worthy of an evening of jalebis and chatting. I groggily felt my way to the door and opened it. The woman of the house, whose name I never did get properly, still looking fresh in her yellow sari, stood there with the bluish tint of fluorescent light streaming from the room behind her. "Come, it's dinner time," she said. "I hope you've rested well." I laughed. I didn't mean to laugh. It just happened. A bodily reaction, like a cough or a burp. She looked at me, confused. "It's okay, yes? Everything is okay? You are comfortable?" Yes, of course. Everything is amazing. You are beyond generous and loving and kind. I just thought we already had dinner." No. That was a snack," she said. And now she laughed too. My phone is vibrating. One moment. That's my alarm going off. I had laughed at how anyone could possibly be expected to eat dinner in the middle of the night, after eating platefuls of jalebis earlier in the evening. She had laughed at how anyone could possibly think jalebis are dinner. "Get ready and come soon. Dinner is ready." Jim and I tried to stifle our giggles as we washed our faces. It was insane. We had been awakened in the middle of the night to eat more food. As we dragged ourselves out of the room, back toward the living room, I noticed the guests had left and it was now just the four of them. "This way," the younger of the two daughters said, as she escorted us into the dining area, where a square wooden table stood just off the kitchen. We sat down to plates that had already been served for us. Heaps of fragrant cauliflower and potatoes, a bowl of brown garbanzo beans and sauce called chana, another heap of what looked like mixed vegetables, and a chapati, Indian flatbread the size of a dinner plate. I looked at Jim, and we both bit our lips to prevent bursting into laughter. Seriously? Luckily, Jim could eat and digest pretty much anything. Healthy and athletic, he had an appetite that never waned. I was not able to eat much, though, as the jalebi still took up most of the space in my stomach. Just a little, just one spoonful, each of the family would coax in rotation. I kept laughing inside as it seemed like a comedic dream. Finally, after Jim had graciously eaten for both of us, they let us go back to sleep. The next morning, The father, whose name I did not know at the time, but have shamefully forgotten, or that I did know at the time, personally escorted us past their local bus station and all the way to Haridwar, the famous religious city situated about halfway to Rishikesh. Haridwar being a much larger city than Rishikesh, the main bus routes ended there, so he took us there and put us onto the correct bus to our destination. With hugs and promises to meet again, which we all knew we would not keep, we bade each other a love-filled farewell. Had it really been less than 24 hours since we met? Thus we conclude chapter 4. So, we're off to a good start, I think. Experiencing what Indian hospitality is like. One of the things that I would be scared for too is having to eat so many things. My tummy is only so big. Especially if it's really spicy, I think I might burst into flames. I don't know. You can let me know if that's something that you would look forward to or be terrified of. We'll pause our reading of Hollywood to the Himalayas there for now, but thank you for listening.